In choosing to watch these documentaries, you've shown you are looking for something. Entertainment, companionship, or maybe you're looking for answers. If you agree, you should know your own reasons for watching are the very qualities cult watchers say help some cults in their ever-increasing quest for new members.
People are much more at risk of being fodder for a cult than they suspect.
It was almost like a planned kidnapping, you know, that's how it felt. It felt like I was not there out of my own free will.
It might be a commercial cult, it might be a religious cult, it might be a self-help cult. They destroy your character, they destroy who you were.
It's the mind games is the worst, you know. It's just all mind control.
Cult watchers claim cults are on the rise, and there are certain characteristics that experts say they have in common. Although the organizations in this documentary may or may not be cults, former members say they have used cult-like techniques like love bombing, character assassination, fear and guilt. They claim they were manipulated by charismatic leaders promising the one true path, and that their goodwill and good nature were used against them, separating them from their families, their money, and at times, their sanity. They say these techniques can have devastating effects. They are the cultic danger signs, and understanding them is the key to understanding how you, your family or friends, could become trapped in a cult.
People who end up in cults or have close brushes with them are people for whom there's been some significant change in their lives. Now, that could be death of someone important, it could be loss of a job, it could be end of a relationship, it could be, and this is not an uncommon one, the transition from, say, secondary school to university.
I just moved to Auckland from Palmerston North. I was walking through Newmarket and someone approached me.
Hi, hello, how are you?
And I thought, oh, this is great, this is God speaking to me, this is a new church.
Are you a Christian?
I went along and they were really friendly, so I thought, oh, this is cool. I'll try this out for a bit. It was quite a different style church to the Anglican one I'd grown up in, but I thought, you know, let's give it a go. So that's how they got me involved.
The International Church of Christ was set up in Boston, USA in the 1980s. It looked like a regular evangelical church, but was soon accused of using cult-like recruitment tactics.
I'm an extrovert, I love meeting people. I was new to a big city and I felt like a small fish in a big pond. I didn't have a lot of family there, was looking to make new friends, so perfect timing really. I was looking to meet people and they spotted that and they just went in for the kill.
The first cultic danger sign is love bombing. It is a conditional love. You will be surrounded by new friends who will turn on you if you do not conform.
Love bombing means instant friends. You join the group and instantly you have all these friends.
And if you come from a real loving home or a loving family sort of thing, you'd fit in with them. You know, you laughed at the same things, you cried at the same movies, you hugged each other all the time, you made food for each other. You saw somebody that was cold, you gave them your blanket, your shirt. What it is to be in a loving family.
Walesi left Auckland to join a Branch Davidian sect. The group that ended with the deaths of dozens of followers in Waco, Texas was initially warm and welcoming.
My elder brother was involved with them at the time. I was looking to hang out with people who weren't afraid of exploring their belief systems. And I thought, well, why not jump in, and got caught up in their lifestyle, which was vegetarian, and they made beautiful food. Lovely souls. Yeah.
While the Branch Davidians follow the Bible, Scientology is based on the writings of science fiction author L. Ron Hubbard. It's a religious movement that uses counseling, known as auditing, to help free members from the limiting effects of past experiences and lives. Former members claim they also experienced love bombing.
When you fall in love, you lose control of your senses. And this is like that. I'd never felt more loved in my life. You're the best person in the world. You have made the right choice.
You're wonderful, look how quickly you got through that course. You're amazing, you've got the idea of that. Oh, look what you can do now. Totally, totally love bombing, and it happens all the time when you first go in.
Suddenly your phone just doesn't stop ringing. There's somebody from America wants to see you, and that can be very appealing. A friend of mine bought a copy of the book Dianetics. I was just intrigued because it promised to be able to get you to a state known as clear, where you'd be able to have total recall, have a IQ in the stratosphere, and you'd have no psychosomatic illnesses and no neuroses of any sort whatsoever. And, you know, that's something I'd like for myself, but also I thought, well, that'd be something I'd like to be able to help other people to achieve.
I've always been an asthmatic, and I've always been told that Scientology could help my asthma. So I had a lot of auditing to do with that. We didn't have enough money to pay for any more courses because it's horrendously expensive. And so we were signed up on staff. We signed a 5-year contract, and we were trained, and I was trained to be an auditor, which is the word for counselling.
Auditors are trained to use the e-meter, a device like a lie detector Scientology says can measure the energy and mass of the pictures in your mind and is designed to help subjects go clear.
You go clear, you're not meant to have any psychosomatic illnesses anymore, you're meant to have a perfect memory. You sign these attestations and success stories to say that those things have actually happened to you. And then the next day, you're wheezing. And you think, oh, you know, there must be still some stuff there that we haven't found yet. You don't want to be a fraud. You don't want to admit to people that you've attested to something that you haven't actually quite got. So you just kind of keep it inside.
The loving welcome from a new group can hide its true nature. Lessons were learned in the 70s when an ordinary suburban Bible studies group in Christchurch developed into a heavily armed, apocalyptic cult living in a fortified compound.
Camp David was a group of people who came together to worship God, in theory, and fellowship together. When we first got there, the men wore beards, women wore scarves and long hair. As things progressed, the men then had to wear a type of skull cap, I suppose, very colourful, very large, and you had to wear this wherever you were because that showed you were part of God's people.
I have to acknowledge that my marriage began there. My first 2 children were born while I was there. It's part of our family history. We had the last heraldic wedding, so we had all the knights and ladies, and we cut our wedding cake with a sword. A grand old wedding we did. We had radar mechanics, we had ground radio mechanics, and we had 3 or 4 engine mechanics and engine fitters. Very capable group. I was the upholsterer, so I upholstered this throne for Doug, and the 24 thrones for the elders.
Self-appointed Bishop Douglas Metcalfe was an Australian evangelist who claimed he was sent to save the faithful from the coming apocalypse.
We are sent to New Zealand at the present time. We may be sent to Australia later. Someone else may be raised up in Australia to give them this message. And someone else may be raised up in America or somewhere else to give them this message. But it's our place to preach this message here.
At that point, he was being taught as the secret Christ. He was addressed as Lord Yeshua, or Adonai Yeshua. He wanted to develop the kingdom of God 3 ways: theologically, centred around himself, heraldically, and militarily. From 1974 on, when the purchase of ammunition goods and gunpowder and guns and weaponry accelerated enormously. A lot was kept on our West Coast property, some was kept on our farm itself. A lot of stuff was kept around our houses and hidden around the houses. I had 5 weapons myself, and I was one of the lesser. I don't know if anyone really knew how much we had.
A group hoarding guns and explosives can show the dangerous power of a charismatic leader.
On every newspaper and magazine.
Cult watchers warn of leaders becoming the object of worship. They call this danger sign the self-appointed charismatic leader.
It is almost a prerequisite for the success of a cultic organisation to have a lightning rod around which people can be drawn.
Centrepoint developed out of the 1970s fad for relationship counselling. The community would eventually be torn apart by child sex abuse prosecutions and drug convictions. Its self-appointed spiritual leader was ex-pest control salesman Bert Potter.
I think of him as a psychopath. You know, psychopathic people don't feel fear, they don't feel compassion, they don't feel remorse for hurting and doing harm. So he could be a stable, unemotional life raft when everything, your whole world, was just falling apart. And he had some kind of enjoyment in that.
Most cult leaders have pretty much all of the traits of your classic psychopath or your classic sociopath. These are people who are motivated by a need for power, so they can use it to manipulate, dominate and control. Now, all of these psychopaths think they're God. Cult leaders manage to convince other people they're God.
The group was growing. There were probably about 12 of us, and we all shared our ideas of our fantasy for the community.
Like an interconnected village.
And then Bert spoke up at the end and said, "You've all left out the most important bit. Not one of you has said that you're joining the community to be with me." And this is what's bizarre looking back. Why didn't I go, well, we didn't say that because that's not why we're joining? It's hard to explain what his power was, that everyone, quite able people, we're all professional or qualified in some way, all went, oh, no, we didn't. So that was a significant meeting at which he put himself in this power position, and we agreed to it. Bert didn't call himself the father, but he seemed like the strong one in all this emotional turmoil. People would quite often just sort of crawl across the room into his arms. So his charisma was very much hands-on, very personal.
It's better.
It was very childlike. It was just breakdown, breakdown, breakdown till you got into that childish, dependent state. And cults do that, create dependency. So that over a period of time, that feeling of, you know, I have to stay here, I can't leave.
Self-styled guru and psychotherapist Bert Potter and his Centrepoint community are in trouble with the locals yet again for allegedly preaching and publicly practicing sexual freedom.